This is the Friday, October 31st, 2014 version of the Market Plus segment. Joining us now is Naomi Blohm. Naomi, welcome back.
Thank you, Mike.
We on the show, I should say you on the show, talked quite a little bit about how exports have been really driving demand, particularly in the proteins and animal agriculture. And of course, a big function of that is the U.S. dollar and its value. Where do you see the dollar going? We've been on a great uptrend here. Is that going to continue?
Yes, we'll see the dollar stay firm, and it's been kind of just between two key price points right now and trending sideways, and we expect that to continue and potentially get a little stronger yet. We don't see it falling apart. It's historically still a decent value, and so our exports to other countries are still attractive from that standpoint, but at the same time, that dollar still looks firm. It's going to stay that way.
Going to stay that way, and we are seeing continued. Well, Russia is trying to change their inflationary standards.
Yes, they did today, and then a lot of other monetary issues in Brazil and Argentina yet with high inflation and the currencies all over the place and political upheaval. So the dollar is still the safe haven for many investors, and that's why it's going to stay firm.
All right. Now, as we're talking international markets, let's talk cotton. Any international hubbub this week in the cotton market?
Yes, there was some excitement in the cotton market this week. Turkey pulled some interesting tricks out of their hat, so to speak, and they said that the United States has been dumping cotton in Turkey. And it was their government which just flat out picked a fight and accused the United States of doing this. And so the United States is like, what? So the U.S. government is working with the Cotton Council, and they're appropriately replying and fact-finding to say absolutely not so much. So that's been kind of the big hullabaloo in the cotton industry this week. But also cotton had really good export sales this week, which was why the cotton market was able to have a good rally. And then it set back because fundamentally there's still a lot of cotton out there. But it was a very kind of an exciting gossipy week for the cotton market.
Now, what would be Turkey's motive for declaring we were dumping cotton? Are they seeking to put tariffs on something else? Was this a first shot in a potential trade war?
That's a great question, and it's still kind of fresh news that people are still trying to decipher what is going on. So tune in next week, and we'll hopefully have some answers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, now, as we look over to our social media questions, we had a question from Scott in Rolfe, Iowa. And Scott called in because there's still a lot of discussion about the food versus fuel debate. And I'm sure we'll get some more of it as the RFS is debated and rules eventually released. But his question is, since corn prices have dropped, why haven't food prices declined?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a fair question. And when you see the crude oil futures drop and then gasoline, start to follow, you do wonder why. And I would say it's something where, unfortunately, one, it takes time. Two, a lot of the food companies had to pay a lot of higher prices for a long time. So now that they're back profitable, they're in business to be in business. So if they can maintain their profits for as long as they can by whatever means they can, they're going to. So it would probably take low prices for, my personal guess would be low prices on the grain markets for an entire year before they just kind of say, all right, we'll pass it on to the consumer now. So that would be my best guess as to why.
Now, you mentioned something interesting. We've seen crude oil fall and gasoline fell at the beginning, but recently we've seen crude continue to fall and gasoline has stayed roughly sideways. Is that expected to continue, or should eventually gasoline pricing begin to trail down along with it?
That is a good question. I'm not sure. Part of me wonders if demand is picking up because it's cheap. So are more people taking road trips or those types of things? But something to watch. I don't have an answer for you.
All right. Well, I was just curious. We've got a question here from Jared from Twitter, and he's curious, do you think we'll go down and test the lows we made this fall in the next 12 months for producers? All right. Why do you say that?
Because of demand, because it's historically cheap. And if you look at longer term charts, it's as cheap as it can go, quite frankly, with inflation, is my opinion. So do we have a setback on prices in the rest of November? Yeah, we'll have a little bit of a correction and some sideways movement, but I think the doom and gloom is gone, because if you stop and look at the ending stocks for corn, beans, and wheat, we had all of the negative news already factored in. That happened in September, got it out of our system, and now we can move on because the demand is picking up and the crop isn't going to get any bigger than what the USDA has already forecasted. So now we have to go into another new crop year where South America is already having weather issues, and who knows what we're going to have here if our winter is going to be hell like it was last year. So and how our spring is going to be. So the low, I think, is in. But now, do we have crazy huge prices this next year? Probably not, because there is enough supply to get us through. So look for more of a quiet year. But no, we're not. We're done.
The $9 beans and the $3 corn and the $5 wheat is probably behind us.
We're done.
All right. Now, you mentioned harvest is progressing, but it has been slow. It has been historically slow, and so we've seen a lot of interesting plays to be made on the cash side, both for producers' advantages and in some cases in the Dakotas to their disadvantages. But what have you been seeing around the country on the cash side?
If you by chance live anywhere near the Mississippi River, then you are in luck because the export demand is so strong. Trying to just get it, of course, down and out the Gulf, and then, of course, depending on the river flow, to get it into the southeast. But in New Madrid, Missouri, and kind of right near Mound City, Illinois, too, in that area this week, all week long, the elevators there were bidding 30 cents over November futures for beans. And it wasn't just like, okay, can you get it in here for a week? It's for if you bring it anytime in November. That's your whole time that you can bring it in. So that's how much demand is there right now. For them to say, we'll give you 30 cents over the November futures and you have the whole month of November, that's pretty rich.
And now I've heard some co-ops in southern, southwestern Iowa, for example, are basis as much as 50 cents under the November. You'd think that would spur some arbitrage movement to get, that's a 70-cent basis to move grain 200 miles. You'd think that would pencil.
You would hope so, but then it's a trucking issue. There's not enough drivers. And that's everywhere.
Really?
It's everywhere. And candidly, it's, that they're just not available. I've heard that for insurance purposes, they're having a hard time passing some of the tests that drivers need to pass to be insurable. So that's a lot of it too. So if ever there's a part-time job that someone was looking for, they are paying huge money. I've heard of major trucking companies across the nation who are putting in big raises for their drivers because it's that much of an in demand right now.
Wow, so if you've got a semi sitting in the shed that you haul grain with, there might be a side job opportunities out there. We've got a final question for you, again, as we're looking forward to next year. Kyle in Hubbard, Iowa is curious, should he be hedging or making cash forward sales for D's 15 corn right now?
I would say if you know that it is definitely above your cost of production, a hedge to arrive would be attractive because you are going to get a $4 future number on it. I wouldn't get excited about it though, just because there is so much crop year that needs to come up. And, you know, granted, what are the odds that we have 2 years of perfect crop years in a row? And right now, South America already isn't. So I would say it's okay to start, but I think there's better things coming. Okay,
a very small percentage then if you really feel the need to make some sales. All right. Well, Naomi, I want to thank you for taking the time to joining us this weekend.
You.
And thanks to all of you for sending in your questions via Facebook and Twitter. We appreciate it. Please continue to do so. Tell your friends, and we will get expert analysis right to you. Thanks for watching, and have a great week. And a happy Halloween.